We're going to start with roll call. If we can have the roll call slide. There we go.
Phil Block.
Carolyn Watson.
Monica Webster.
Kelly Aramaki.
Okay. Now, Chief of Staff John Harrison will introduce our student speaker.
That would be wonderful. We are fortunate tonight. We have Ava Mishra here, and she is a junior at Interlake High School, and she is happy to lead us in the pledge and the land acknowledgement and say a few words. Ava?
United States of America, to the republic
For which it stands,
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The land acknowledgement? Oh, okay. Oh, there we go.
there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't see the top.
This is we acknowledge.
We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous land of the Coast Salish peoples who have reserved treaty rights to this land, specifically the Duwamish and Snoqualmie tribes. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial. We reflect on the historic context that brings us to reside on this land and accept responsibility to interrupt erasure. We commit to an ongoing partnership with the Snoqualmie tribe as we listen to, learn from, and lead with their guidance.
Now for the student update? Yeah.
Great. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ava Mishra, and I am a junior at Interlake High School. I could go on about all the opportunities Interlake has provided me, whether it be a diverse variety of academic pathways with different levels of rigor, or the multitude of extracurricular programs. As captain of the cheer team and a member of Interlake Theater, I can vouch for our school as we have so much to offer for everyone, and I'm grateful that I've found a community that I can fit into. But none of this would have been possible without our school's MHAT program, Mental Health Assistance Team. Freshman year was an extremely difficult transition for me, as I found myself caught in the struggles of adjusting to the academic and social pressure of high school. As a school that prides itself on its academics, I'm sure a lot of other Interlake students can relate to that. Through the SOS lesson, I got called into the counselor's office and was introduced to Ruth Rosas, one of our MHAT counselors. I can confidently say that I would not be where I am today without her. For the first time, I felt seen and was able to address my mental health in a space that I felt safe in, and I was able to break out of the negative mindset I had built for myself. Ruth had an incredible impact on me as she allowed me to see that there are so many opportunities around me, and perfection isn't necessary for happiness. Our school's MHAT program is one of the most valuable resources we have, especially today. Through my experience with the program, I have found that I am better integrated with our school community, and I was able to embrace my passion in the arts. I was provided the resources to leave the advanced learning program and instead take courses in theater and have time to continue cheer, which in my experience are things that aren't usually prioritized within our school. Now, as a representative of our school, I find it is important to share my experience with the program and stress our importance to continue it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
All right. Is there going to second it?
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. How about, so the agenda is approved, and then we move on to the consent agenda. And I guess I'll move that we approve the consent agenda, and may I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda is approved. Now we go to the superintendent update.
Did you want to do the acknowledgements? That was one thing. that-
Oh, did I skip the?
That's okay. There they are.
I was looking for them and I was wondering if there was something missing.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. So okay, so the acknowledgements are Americans of Chinese Descent History Month, School Board Recognition Month, New Year's Day was on the 1st, Shogatsu was on the 1st, Dia de los Reyes was on the 6th, and Orthodox Christmas was on the 7th.
all right.
Now we can go to,
Great.
now we can do superintendent update.
All right. Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody. Great to see you all. I'm excited about our superintendent update today, but the first thing I'll just mention before I jump into it is, sorry about the extra on the slide. I know it was more fun on my computer screen. It is really extra here. So anyhow, I will mention that as one of the acknowledgements, the Americans of Chinese Descent History Month, I just want to call that out because it's Bellevue students and families that really advocated for that. And so we have this new kind of recognition because of the advocacy of students here in the Bellevue School District. So I just want to say kudos to them for their hard work. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. How about that? Okay, so just a couple of things I wanted to talk about. The first one is this Monday, we're going to be celebrating Dr. King's birthday. And I love this quote from him. I didn't know that it started with the 3 words, "we shall overcome," but it's from one of his speeches. He says, "We shall overcome because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." And I love the quote, and I especially love it with the words, "we shall overcome," because our students in our district are really working hard to build the beloved community here in Bellevue. And as you'll see on the next slide that I'm going to talk about, we have had just incredible observations of Martin Luther King Jr. Day and celebrations of his life and his work across the school district. And so let's go to the next slide and I'll just show you some examples. There's just a few photos. The top left is celebration at Newport Heights Elementary School. And then we move to the right and around. Sammamish High School just put on an incredible celebration of Dr. King's life and really took the whole school and all of us through just the history of his life and his relevance. And one of the students at the end talked about how it is in some ways so frustrating that year after year, we're talking about the same stuff that they've been talking about for decades and decades. And yet it is so critical that we continue to talk about it year after year. And it makes me think about that quote about the arc of the moral universe being long, but it bends towards justice if our kids and our communities are bending it towards justice. And so that is what we're seeing across our system. Bottom right, our Vice President, Monica Webster, got to be the guest speaker at International School. One of those kids up there is the son of our director, Phil Block, which was a great celebration also. And then bottom left, Bellevue High School. I got to be there. We have some folks here from Bellevue High School tonight, but they put on an incredible 2 different assemblies just to honor Dr. King, but also to call us to action to make our communities more inclusive for all kids. And so I just want to say kudos to the Bellevue community and to our students for these celebrations of Dr. King and the call to action to be better as a community. Next slide. One thing I'll just call out, I am speaking at an event later this month to talk about illiteracy and the impacts of kids not learning how to read when they're young and what that does to kids as they grow up. And so literacy instruction is a key focus area for us in the school district. We want all of our kids to read. We've been doing a lot of work at the elementary level, in particular around the science of reading. And so if people are interested, they're going to do a viewing of the documentary Sentenced. And then I'll be part of a panel to talk about the importance of literacy instruction. Next slide. A couple of quick updates. Just as we enter the new year, we're doing some amazing things across the district. And in order to support all of that amazing work that's happening, we have to do a really good job at managing things like transportation and our budget and all of the systems that support our kids and our educators. And so with regards to transportation, just to remind people that some of the key root causes of the bus driver shortage are affordable housing, tight job market, and then we have bus drivers are impacted by illness and things like that. So we are continuing to struggle with it, although the problem is getting a lot better. We do predict a return to normalcy just around the corner. We had, as of last week, 6 unfilled routes. Now we have 5, and we have 7 drivers who are finishing their training over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're hoping for no cancellations by February 1st. And so I just want to do a shout out to our bus drivers. They are the unsung heroes of the Bellevue School District. It often takes crises for us to appreciate those around us. And I will say that our bus drivers are so critical in getting our kids to and from school, greeting our kids, saying goodbye to our kids, taking care of our kids from door to door. And we are very, very thankful for them. And then I'll just close this part by saying I do, again, apologize to the community for these challenges because, I mean, not being able to get kids to and from school is a major impact on our ability to educate children. And so I apologize that we're going through these challenges. We're doing a lot in all different ways to make sure that this never happens to us again. And then I just want to express my gratitude to the community for their incredible patience and understanding as we work to resolve these issues. Next slide. I want to talk a little bit about budget. A lot of people have been asking about this, and I got to speak to the Bellevue Council PTSA and all of our PTSA presidents about this. But as people know, last month we announced that we weren't going to consolidate a middle school. But at the same time, we have about $10 million that we have to find in budget reductions this year, and then an additional $15 million the following year, and an additional $15 million the year after that. And so I just want the community to know what we're working on. So let's go to the next slide. There's 3 strategies. So we're going to be doing some budget prioritization, and we're going to be doing some work to pull $10 million out of our spending. So that is going to happen this year. But I want the community to know that we are also going to work very hard to increase revenue. And so these are the 3 principal strategies that we are undertaking. The first one is we are advocating and working with our legislature to apply regionalization to the local enrichment levy. So for some people, that's going to make absolutely no sense. But we're doing some work with our PTAs and others to understand kind of what we're advocating for. But basically, we're advocating for the legislature to allow us to consider cost of living on what we can collect in our local enrichment levy. By doing so, if they were to allow us to do that, we would be able to collect about another $9 million a year. And so when you look at about $10 million of budget deficits every year, $9 million a year in additional funds through the local levy would be a huge deal for Bellevue. And so we're advocating for that. On top of that, we're advocating for an equity kind of partner bill to go with that to support districts that can't afford through local levy to raise funds for their district. The exciting thing is that we have senators we have a Senator Wellman, who is sponsoring the bill, and there's already a bill number in case you're curious, but 5956 is the Senate bill that they're introducing. And then the House bill that's being introduced by one of our senators, Vandana Slatter, is House Bill 2215. So this is happening. Now it's in the hands of legislators to see if we can get this done. The second thing that we're doing is continuing our work to attract students to the Bellevue School District and to increase enrollment. This is a key driver of our budget deficit, is the declining enrollment due to housing prices and declining birth rates. But what we know is if we create a system that parents and kids want, then we will be able to bring kids into our system. And I think, Ava, when you were talking about MHAT, having a school district where we prioritize mental health and student well-being, like it's those things that kids and families want, and it's those things that draw people to the Bellevue School District. And so whether it's supporting student well-being and mental health, or it's creating bilingual programs like Hindi and Korean, which we're starting this fall, or bringing in new CTE courses, STEM courses, or elevating the arts and music, we want to continue to make Bellevue a place where families know that they will have excellent and innovative education for their kids. The third thing that we're doing is working with our Bellevue Schools Foundation. This year, the donations from our families through the Bellevue Schools Foundation brought about $1 million or so, a little bit less than that, into the school district. But we've talked with folks from the Bellevue Schools Foundation, and there are ways that if the community wanted to find ways to support our school district, that we could leverage our partnership with the Bellevue Schools Foundation to bring an additional $2 or $3 million into our system to pay for things like mental health supports, STEM opportunities, and things like that. And so you'll be hearing more from us and from the Bellevue Schools Foundation about how we could possibly leverage our foundation to increase revenue for the district. Next slide. Budget prioritization. So this is kind of just a future look of what's going to be happening over the next few months around looking at our budget. But January 25th, this next board meeting, we're going to have a school board study session to talk about the budget and for the board to kind of give us kind of their thoughts about priorities, guardrails, and things like that. January through March is the short legislative session. So we're going to know by the end of March whether or not we get this levy regionalization bill passed. Also, January through March, we'll be doing some additional community engagement around budget prioritization. In April, I will be proposing my budget to the school board. And then in August is when the school board approves the 24-25 budget. Next slide. Okay, and this is just ending with fun and celebration, but these are the beautiful pictures of our school board. We have an incredible group of people who help to lead this district. And we're just thrilled about their leadership. They guide us, they provide input, they help design the strategic plan, and they give hours and hours and hours of their time in order to make sure that the Bellevue School District is flourishing and thriving and that kids are getting what they need. And so I just want to honor them because this January is School Board Recognition Month, and I want to honor the work that they're doing. Joyce Shuey, who's pictured there in the center, announced last week that she will be stepping down from the school board, but I want to take this opportunity to thank Director Shuey for her leadership in the school district. You will be finding out probably tomorrow, but if not tomorrow, then for sure by next week, the process for selecting a new school board member in her absence. But for the 4 remaining who are sitting here, I just want to say thank you so much for your service, and we have some gifts for you, and then we have certificates for you as well for your service. So let's give them a big round of applause.
Well, that was nice. Thank you.
All right.
Do you have more for superintendent update, or you?
Is that my last slide?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Okay.
All right.
So now we're going to pass the baton over to Chief of Schools John Harrison, who's going to guide us through the public comment section of the program.
That would be great. George, can you put the slide? We have 9 public commenters. If you go to the next slide, George, I'm going to just explain the process, and then President Watson, if you want to give the directions, that would be great. But just before you do that, we've got 9 speakers tonight. Sorry, we have 10 speakers tonight. We're going to start with Jody Wise, our online speaker. And what I would ask, you see the order of commenters on the screen. What I would ask is that each of you come up when the person before you is up, be ready to move your way to the podium. And when you get to the podium, if you could introduce yourselves to the board and then make your public comment, it would be much appreciated. So George, if you could go back 1 slide, and President Watson, if you want to give directions, that would be fantastic.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so everyone can read this, these guidelines, but I usually paraphrase them a little bit for people. So we do like to hear your public comments. You get 2 minutes. We try to limit the public comment section to 20 minutes because we could literally go for an hour and we wouldn't have time as school board volunteers. we'll listen to all your comments carefully, but we don't respond in the moment. And part of that is because we can't confer unless it's like actually on an agenda. So to prevent us from sort of saying the wrong thing, we don't respond in the moment. We might have to interrupt you if we feel like it's not being civil, but generally, recently that has not been a problem, so that's good. So no comments that are libelous, slanderous, invade somebody's privacy or obscene or indecent, nothing that violates policy or procedure to harass anybody, and nothing that incites an unlawful act or disrupts the orderly operation of the board meeting. So, but thank you for coming, and you can come up to the microphone in the order on the slide. We're going to start with the online person.
We'll start with Jody Wise online.
Okay.
Jody, if you're with us, that would be great.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak. So the reason I'm here today is because we've been in the Bellevue School District for 17 years. We're taxpayers. Part of the reason we moved to Bellevue was we knew they had great schools. But we've had problems accessing my daughter's education. Both of my daughter has, she has an IEP. Since the district has hired the council, Shannon McMenemy, we have not been able to meet with my daughter's IEP team. This has been going on since September. I've gone up the chain of command. I've talked to the teachers. I met with the principals. I've talked to the superintendent. I've spoken to everyone, and I'm not alone in my experience, but basically she has blocked any meetings with the IEP team since we've been asking in September. My daughter has gotten deteriorated in her condition, and she is now unable to come to school anymore. We have notes from physicians stating that, and we just had a meeting today, and they're saying that my daughter is truant, even though she refused to go to school and it's due to mental health conditions. So my question for the board would be accountability. And I would like you to look, because we're talking finance, how many times since Shannon has been in with the district, has there been due process complaints against the district? How many special education community complaints have there been?
We're going to have to stop this. Please turn it off. We cannot talk about these.
Why are you asking me to turn it off? Why are you blocking me?
Because we can't discuss HR issues in a public forum.
It is not an HR issue. It is how an employee is allowing my access to my daughter's education. It's impacting it. It's not an HR issue.
Okay, you can come to the board separately, but we're not doing this in public.
No, I will send it out, and it will be public because it's a public issue. We're taxpayers, and you're the board and the super.
If Aiden Brooks could make your way up to the podium, that would be great. And Lorenzo, if you could be ready. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am a student at Bellevue High School, and today I heard that January is a school board recognition month. So I wanted to take the time and recognize Dr. Aramaki here. Bellevue District is a beacon of excellence in education, stands as a testament to the dedication of its community and the visionary leadership of Superintendent Dr. Aramaki. Under his guidance, inclusivity has become a cornerstone, fostering an environment where every student feels valued and included. The commitment to academic excellence and a supportive atmosphere sets Bellevue apart, creating a foundation for success and personal growth. Together, we celebrate the spirit of unity and the pursuit of knowledge that defines our remarkable district. So if everyone would please stand up and give a ovation for Dr. Aramaki, that would be really. Thank you for making this school district amazing.
Good evening. My name is Lorenzo McKinney. I am a proud current Bellevue Wolverine. I work as a graduate success coach, along as a Black Student Union advisor, as well football coach. I just want to personally thank, and there's no way I'd be in front of this panel if it wasn't for, of course, Dr. Armaki, Shamari Jones, and as well my mentor and boss, Dr. Anderson, who provided me such a platform and a great opportunity at Bellevue High School to make an impact. Over the past 3 years, as far as a football coach, we've had tremendous success as a program, 2 state championships in 3 years. During those 3 years, we have produced 2 All-American football players, as well as 10+ players who have continued on to the next level to schools such as Claremont, McKenna, Stanford, Pomona, Pfizer, as well as Michigan. Along with the platform that the football program has given me, we've been able to start up our girls flag football team, which will be starting next Tuesday. So very exciting, again, being able to promote different opportunities through the sport. Challenges that we face at Bellevue are good. It's a growing population due to open enrollment, as well as our academic success in our clubs and activities. With growing population from outside the district, we have a number of African-American students who want to change their lives. So upon coming to Bellevue, as we preach equality and unity without a number of staff members of color, it is important at BHS and the Black Student Union, we make sure as a district, we honor being welcome, unity, and everything else. That's why it is so important to not only honor Dr. Martin Luther King this Monday and every other day continue on forward, but as a Black Student Union, really have Black culture, unity ring throughout Bellevue, most importantly, the district. I'd just like to leave you with one quote from Dr. Martin Luther King, and it kind of sums up a lot about myself. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make a subject and your verb agree to serve. You don't have to know about Plato and Aristotle to serve. You don't have to know about Einstein's theory of relative to serve. You don't have to know the secondary theory of thermodynamics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sophia Twahir. I apologize, I'm a bit sick. I am currently a sophomore at Bellevue High School. Over the past couple weeks, I have been working hard being one of the student leaders for BSU with Lorenzo. The purpose of the club is to have a platform in which we can have an open discussion about the Black experience and celebrate and create Black community lacking at Bellevue. We can also be able to discuss any racial issues and try to resolve them. As there are very few Black students in a primarily white institution, it is evident that issues will arise with students and teachers. Often we discuss experiencing bias and microaggressions in the classroom. As one of the only Black students in the entire class, most of us feel as we are being picked on and singled out. That is why we are calling on the district to help solve this issue, not only in Bellevue High, but in the entire school district. It is evident we need policies and open racial discussions to make change. In Bellevue High, we see a lack of education with educators. Personally, at Bellevue High School, teachers have made remarks about my hair, my skin tone, my name, where I'm really from, and how I'm particularly intelligent for a Black student. A teacher has touched my hair without permission. A teacher has made comments on how light I am for a Black person. A teacher has called me Shaniqua and told me to fix the spelling of my name so it's right. These so-called insignificant and small incidents impact every Black student and the experience of their education. Being constantly belittled and targeted for their race is exhausting. You are constantly aware of your race. You are constantly aware how others behave to you. You're constantly looking for the next thing someone's going to say. This happens constantly throughout Bellevue School District, and it is rare to, and you can see that there's a large disconnect between students and staff. It's rare to see Black students in tutorial or classes. Yes, thank you.
Hello. Today I stand before you not only as an Israeli-American mother with 2 daughters in the district, but also as a concerned member of this community. The recent atrocities committed in Israel and the alarming rise of anti-Semitism in our country have left me deeply shaken. The hate we are experiencing as a people is unbearable, and it has seeped into our educational institutions. In our district, we are facing high school walkouts that are organized by outside anti-Israel organizations that are spreading misinformation and anti-Semitism. Hamas, with its misleading branding as a social justice movement, capitalizes on the ignorance of our students. Our students, unfortunately, may not be fully aware of the true nature of the organization they are aligning with. In this era of abundant but often false information, it is our duty to equip students with the tools to analyze information critically. Otherwise, we risk a society where misinformation prevails. I was disheartened to hear the chants that the school district allowed during recent high school walkout in Sammamish. Chants supporting terrorism against Jews were allowed to persist for an hour on a megaphone. Why are we not protecting our students from endorsing terrorism? Why are we not safeguarding our Jewish students from this vile hatred? Silence or inaction is an endorsement of these anti-Semitic threats. It is crucial that we send a clear message that such behavior has no place in our community, and we are committed to fostering an environment that is welcoming and safe for everyone, including Jews. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Hi, yeah, first of all, I want to thank you for Bellevue School District, especially our superintendent, Dr. Aramaki. I know since he was elected, he did so much work. Last time when I was attending the auto meeting for consolidation meeting, he was there to meet every single parent, shake the hand with them, try to meet them, because he's trying to do a great job, try to protect our Bellevue School District. But one thing I want to say, I don't agree with one of the speakers. It doesn't matter what your race is. I'm Asian. If you don't work hard on your academic, you cannot blame on your race. And I think that's the people should aware. We are the country that there's many people that come with a different race. So I really appreciate he's doing the program, like teaching the kids know different languages. I think that's a really good point to do that. And we also appreciate that we didn't close although this year. It's a really big trauma and a stress on us, on the parents. I was planning to send my kids to private school if they're gonna close Odo. And many of the parents was trying to do the same thing because we're really traumatized because they're trying to close the school. And they should think about the long impact. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, so what I'm saying that it's a negative impact if they close school, that more parents is gonna, prepare to send the kids to private school. They provide, maybe like different option they're gonna look. And it's really traumatized for the little kids. Like last year when Eastgate closed, I heard one of the friends' kids were crying all day long. A lot of time, almost a year. That's a big trauma for the kids. And we running it, it's not like a business. Like, if the budget down, we close the school.
Thank
then
you.
If the budget up, we open it up.
Thank you.
I don't think that's the way it's supposed to be, but thanks.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Tenda Lumala. I'm a senior at Bellevue High School, and today I want to talk to you about the experience of Black students at Bellevue High School and within the Bellevue School District. In the fall 2023 Bellevue High School Panorama Survey, 80% of high school students reported hearing racist remarks at school. This is echoed in the district data. where over 79% of students have stated that they've heard racist remarks at school. I remember at the beginning of the school year, when I was called into a meeting about a freshman who had experienced these racist remarks aimed at them. It had been a series of incidents, not just one moment, but over and over again, over multiple days, in multiple classes, where they've experienced the pain and suffering that racial remarks can have on a student, and it was affecting them. The issue is the district has no educational procedure or policy to combat this in a classroom and to educate students before incidents. Teachers are left without the resources to know how to respond to these incidents and how to talk about them outside of disciplinary processes. So even if a student is not involved with an incident and they see it happen in a classroom, there'll never be a conversation in a classroom afterwards about why this behavior is wrong. Students are not involved in these disciplinary processes, and so inside of a classroom, this behavior is normalized. And so I call on the district to create a procedure for teachers to work through these in a classroom and make sure that every student feels like they can give their best self inside of the educational environment of Bellevue School District. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Yeah, Happy New Year. My name is Alex Zimmerman, yeah. And I come to meeting 4,000 times for the last 20 years. Guys, I like people here and I like you. It's only one problem. Nobody talking about Constitution as right for freedom of speech. Nobody. You understand what is you did? You did from them a slave. Fundamental principle of Constitution, what is you did? Disappear. Nobody talking about Constitution. Nobody talking of freedom of speech because they scared. You see, everybody talking about here, small problem, small problem, small problem. We don't have fundamental in this room as Constitution, as freedom of speech for everybody. Why are you doing this? Who brings this 20 minutes, 10 people? Where it's come from? I live here for 40 years. Nobody give me this answer. Where it's come from? From Nazi? From fascist? From tyranny? From Ku Klux Klan? Huh? Where is comes this limitation? Can somebody answer me? And I ask you 10,000 times, maybe a little bit less. Where is comes this limitation? Who did this? You can answer me? I said this like complaint, and I want to answer from you. Where is you find this limitation? 20 minutes for 10 people. It's a total tyranny. It's a total fascism. I call this damn Nazi fascist junta. It's exactly who you are. You brainwash all people. You know, look, they're very quiet. Nobody talking about this. Guys, stop and acting like a Nazi. You understand? You exactly who you are. It's not believable. Brainwash children. Children don't know what is mean Constitution. It's for you guys.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Tracy Macklin, and I am the Odal President of the PTSA. I am representing the voted upon views of its passionate assembly. On November 16th, the Odal PTSA General Assembly passed a resolution giving me guidance on what to advocate for on behalf of our voting families regarding the middle school consolidation issue. In summary, it says that we will advocate to keep open all 5 middle schools. Check. Ask that the optional programs that differentiate Bellevue School District as a top-tier district remain in place, and that the district look for ways to increase revenue rather than just cutting costs. Check. We are grateful with Dr. Aramaki's December announcement that the district recognized that the fabric of the district is woven with the uniqueness of each school and community, the diversity, programming, and community building, and that there are no school closures at this time. But our advocacy is not done. We also realize that part of what makes BSD special is the access to valuable, but sadly optional programming, the loss of which could further hurt enrollment numbers and our students. We are therefore also advocating to keep the high level of course selection and optional educational programming, including but not limited to self-contained advanced learning, music and arts programming, foreign language programming at the elementary and middle schools, SEL programming, and 7th period across middle school and high school. Lastly, the resolution recommends that the district look into other ways of increasing enrollment and revenue rather than focusing just on expense cutting, and we are happy to hear that that's happening. After doing a bit more research about how education is funded in Washington State, I feel that the intent of that resolution would also recommend lobbying for an increase to the levy caps and applying the 18% regionalization to levies so that more of our tax dollars stay here, helping our students become the creators of their future world. To that end, I actually am asking all the parents to take a moment of action and write to their senator and representatives in the Washington Congress to ask them to support or thank them for the bills that are currently doing just that. Thank you.
And with that, we have ended the public comment time in our meeting, and we're going to move on to reports. And our first report is a student voice report from the annual plan.
Before we jump in, maybe I'll just do a quick frame, if that's okay. So we have 3 reports: student voice, culturally responsive curriculum, and then multilingual learners. The board in front of you have, I gave you a little note-taking sheet, but with these, for the community to know and for the board, we have, this one's for you, I grabbed it, okay. The school board sets the strategic plan and then the annual plan the annual plan every year, and then a strategic plan every 4 to 5 years. But we in our board policy and procedure, we basically do progress reports 2 times a year, mid-year and then at the end of the year, in order to inform the board on our progress towards the goals. And so what we're doing differently now is we're bringing our reports kind of back into the agenda of our school board meetings so that we have time to actually have discussions about this. And so I just wanted to try this out, but there's particular feedback that is going to be helpful for us as a staff in order to know that we're on the right track, to understand kind of what resonates with you. And so as you're listening to these 3 board reports, I think the 4 categories that would help us in thinking about our work are: what are the key takeaways that you have from listening to these reports? So the things that are resonating with you the most, what affirmations do you have? That could be about just the hard work of the staff, but it's also, I love that we're doing this strategy or something like that. So any kind of affirmation about what you're hearing. Third, any connections that you're making. And so as you're listening, it's like that really connects to the work that we're doing around creators of the future world or whatever. So any kind of connections, that helps us to see kind of how things are aligning. And then the last category are curiosities or considerations. Are there things that you're still curious about, things that you think that we might want to consider as we move forward? So this progress report kind of gives you an idea of where we are mid-year, and then we'll do another report at the end of the year on kind of what we've accomplished. And so when we get after the reports, we'll do a short report and then time after each report for you to basically give us any feedback. And this is an opportunity to kind of use this frame if it's helpful for you. You don't have to talk about each one of the 4 categories, but thank you in advance for your feedback. We really appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump in. The first one is the Student Voice and Agency report.
Okay. All right, good evening, Board of Directors. My name is Heather Sanchez, Chief of Schools, and I'm here with Aaron Miller, fellow Chief of Schools. And it's our pleasure to provide you a mid-year update on our Student Voice and Agency report. And so just a reminder for the Board of Directors, as well as anybody else who may be tuning in, this is the first year that we have had student voice and agency specifically on our annual plan. Previously, this was sense of belonging, and so we're really excited in year one as we think about the progress that we've made so far up to this point of the year, as well as our reflections in supporting all of the schools in the district in their work in this area, and as we vision cast towards the future, how we can continue to get better. Next slide, please. All right, so what you're looking at right here is directly from the annual plan. So again, as Dr. Aramaki shared, this is a mid-year report. And so you just have ahead of you what the annual plan, or in front of you, what the annual plan target in this area is. And we're going to provide you both some quantitative and some qualitative or street level data about our progress in this area tonight, aligning directly to this particular goal language. At this point, we do feel we are on track, and we do have some areas that we're both excited about and that we are looking forward to continuing to grow in. And so now I'll turn it over to Mr. Miller, and he'll talk a little bit about some of our specific strategies.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have three key strategies broadly around elevating student voice and agency. The first relates to the development of our school improvement plans. So as you know, each of our schools each year develops a school improvement plan. And this year, for each of the SIPs, one of the three key goal areas is student voice and agency. So that means that all of the schools are developing various strategies focused on that key goal area. In addition to that, part of the SIP development process includes a focus on qualitative data, the street data that Dr. Sanchez talked about. So integrating the qualitative data, the street data focus, in addition to the traditional quantitative data, is enabling us to really capture the voices, more broadly of our students. The second strategy focuses on developing leadership capacity in our schools. So Dr. Sanchez and I facilitate monthly professional learning, peer groups, coaching visits. All of those venues are focused on building a leadership capacity in our schools with a specific focus on strengthening student voice and agency. And then finally, we continue to invest in mental health and social emotional learning supports and resources. We see that work as just foundational for increasing student voice and agency. And you heard that from Ava, our student speaker tonight. Those resources are just critical for just supporting students more broadly.
All right, next slide, please. So I'm just going to hit the highlight reel around some of the elementary level data before Mr. Miller talks over some of the secondary data. So what you are looking at is, this is some quantitative evidence. This is from our district panorama survey, and this is the sense of belonging measures. Now, this is a measure that we have been utilizing over several years now. And so what you're looking at is a multiple year snapshot, and we typically look at it fall over fall, just as a point of interest. And however, we did start requiring it for every school in spring as well recently. So that's why you see both fall and spring. On the left hand in bold and asterisk, that's our pre-pandemic levels. And then of course, our most recent administration was just very recently, just a few weeks back. And so what you're looking at is the aggregate of grades 3 through 5 for all of the schools in the district, with some disaggregated subgroups. More or less, más o menos 4 percentage points is statistically significant. And I think one thing that we would want to point out is that we are at this point at or above, for all of our students, our pre-pandemic levels. So that's one thing we think about when we think about student voice and agency, sense of belonging. Next slide, please. And new this year for the elementary students, we have added some questions that are still part of the panorama, but part of the student engagement domain. And so these are new for elementary. They are not for secondary. And so when Mr. Miller goes back and talks about the data, you'll see more data over time for secondary. And so that is why you're looking at, for spring 2023, there's an NA because it's new this fall. You can see the questions that are on the survey up above there. I believe they're an excellent addition to give us a little bit more data from this particular measure about our elementary level students and their perceptions around their lived experiences in their classroom. And we won't have another data point until spring. So when we do the end of year report for you all on the community on this particular area of our annual plan, you'll see we have a little bit more information, but what we have right now is our elementary baseline. All right, next slide, please. And then here's some qualitative data. And so there's too many to go through. And so I thought it might be nice for the board and for any community members who might be viewing just to see a little sampling of some of the things that are occurring. And so on the left there, you have a Cherry Crest student who's presenting about her Indigenous American identity and teaching her peers and also the staff about her history and her lived identity as an Indigenous American. In the middle, you have a photograph of Stevenson Elementary as part of their Latinx Heritage Celebration. And you can see the students there holding up flags from a variety of Latin American countries, celebrating their cultural identities. And then on the right, Phantom Lake's newly established and student-led green team, as well as a principal advisory council. So you see a photograph there of some students in circles, they're in community circles and they're asking some questions and providing feedback. And then last but certainly not least, Spirit Ridge has recently gone through a process to determine what their new mascot will be, because as you're aware, Eastgate and Spirit Ridge combined, and the students had a multiple voting round process, and they are now officially the Spirit Ridge Orcas.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so for secondary, in terms of the quantitative data that we're using to kind of track our progress related to student voice and agency, we're also using the Panorama survey. We've selected 5 questions from the survey. The survey includes more than 60 questions. So we've pulled out 5 questions that align with this student voice and agency framework. The 5 questions ask students about their sense of self-efficacy, questions about pedagogical effectiveness, their sense of belonging, and how their identity is being affirmed in the classroom. And so you can see the favorable responses from fall 23 improved as compared to fall 22 from 68% to 74%. So that's pretty significant growth fall to fall in 1 year. And then in the various subgroups, we see in some instances even more significant growth. So we're really proud of this. We take that as very encouraging. And when we do our report at the end of the year, we'll be measuring spring to spring to get another measure. In terms of our qualitative data, if we can go to the next slide, we included in the full board report examples of, how we are focused on capturing this street data, as well as just amplifying student voice and agency in general. Just to point out a couple of examples of the kinds of things that are happening at the secondary level. At Newport High School, for example, students are co-constructing monthly social emotional learning lessons with teachers. They call them roundtables on topics such as healthy relationships, stress reduction, beloved community, and disability awareness. An example at the middle level from Chinook Middle School, students are participating in leadership workshops using a framework from the Association of Washington Student Leaders, where they identify things they want to improve about their schools. Here, one example of a student group is they want to build a more accepting culture. So as we're seeing these activities, these strategies implemented at the schools in the fall, it's really just very inspiring work. Some reflections, if we go to the next slide, around just overall what this emphasis on student voice and agency is how it's unfolding at the schools. One thing is that by kind of embedding it in the SIP development process and emphasizing the use of street data, we're seeing more of an emphasis on equitable and inclusive instruction, and we're seeing that really bringing a strong focus to this topic is leading to more collaboration and innovation in the schools. From the panorama data, both at the elementary and secondary level, we're really very encouraged by the initial results that we're seeing in the fall. And we're also just reflecting on how we can create stronger feedback loops. What we're seeing with the roundtables and the SEL lessons, it's all very positive, and we want to make sure that students understand what we're learning from them and what they could expect from us as a result of the voices that we're, centering more through these activities.
All right, so some next steps for us. We are going to continue our, I would say, nested capacity building, and that is through having a really clear through line through our professional development for the leaders in our district, the coaching that happens with the leaders in our district, our leader peer groups, retaining that really consistent focus on elevating student voice and agency. And then we are monitoring with both the quantitative and the qualitative data, cycles of improvement and reporting progress. And so, as we mentioned previously, you all will see this again at the end of the year, but that won't be the next time we reflect on the work happening in our schools within this goal area. And then really importantly, as we think about the development of our next strategic plan and the work happening there, it's going to be really critical as that plan is co-developed, as we think about what role student voice and agency has within that plan. And then lastly, our framework for teaching and learning, and that comes from state level work. We do have some revisions coming there as well that really center student voice and agency. And then the last thing that I will say is, while we sit before you proud of the work that's happening in our schools and with our staff and with our students right now, we also acknowledge that clearly we also have a lot of work to do, as we heard tonight from our student speakers, right, who are exercising their own voice and agency, which we appreciate. And so while we're both proud of the work that we're doing, we also, are relentless in our pursuit that we have an obligation, a moral obligation to continue to improve, and we're excited to do that. So we'll stop there, and then the next slide is some time for some feedback and some input. Thank you very much.
Here I am with my dice. 2, that's me. I passed. All right. Let's go to 3, which is Phil. We all have director district numbers, so we're using those so that it's not always the same person leading the discussion with the first comment. Yeah. Yeah, but I said, 3 is not here, so 4. Okay, go ahead.
So thank you, Ms. Sanchez and Mr. Miller, for that presentation. I'm very excited about the direction that we're headed around being more inclusive of student voice. So thank you very much. Really excited about the co-designing of improvements with our students as well. And, one of the things that I'm hearing from more students that I haven't historically heard was that they're being invited into these spaces more. And so that's very exciting for me to hear. And one of the things that I do want to better understand, I know that the Panorama survey is limiting, right, in that we are only capturing the perspective from one classroom experience. And I'm wondering to what extent the district is exploring opportunities to capture students' experiences across all classroom settings and not just in one, so that we are making sure that we are accurately depicting kind of what their overall experiences are and what those percentages and numbers look like. So just wanted to share that. That's all.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the presentation. of the progress. I very much appreciate some of the kind of a pull out of the 5 different spaces and the quantitative data and the looking at that mastery is I can, I think the question is, I can build, I'm sorry, belonging. I see myself and I am seen and loved. I appreciate that, but I wondered if we could include, oh, what did I put here? Oh, I guess I didn't write it down. I'll come back to that. Let me put that aside. I guess I did ask a question before about how do we make sure that we are affirming our students, and I think it kind of goes back to that sense of belonging. When our students are invited to these spaces to and share their voice, how are we making sure that their voice is being heard? How are they, that feedback loop, I think is what you alluded to earlier. How can we clarify that to our larger staff to make sure that is done consistently through all buildings? And I would love to see at the end of the year report some component of that. Thank you.
That brings us,
Yeah, we're sitting in a funny order, so sorry about that.
sorry, I'm working it out here on my little bill side.
It's great to see this. I think that it's critical that we're not just training the future student leaders and teaching them to use their voice, but teaching them and showing them that we're listening to their voice today is an important element of that. So I appreciate that part of this very much. I think that's tremendous and encouraging and developing. It was great to hear some of the student voices who are here today, but also it's great to hear continuing effort to develop and build and support those student voices and the development of those student voices. Using the framework that I was given, a couple of key takeaways. I'm not necessarily convinced that belonging and student voice are the same thing. And I know that that's a transition from what the previous questions were towards the current one. We just want to be careful as we move that forward. Also, that what student voice looks like at the elementary level and the middle and high school level is likely to be an evolution as the students grow and become more independent from their families and parents and develop their own independent agency, and making sure that we're showing that and respecting that those are going to be different. I thought it was great to see that we're reaching or exceeding the pre-pandemic levels. However, we also noted that it's consistent that the Asian, multi-ethnic, and white subgroups were the ones that were at or above the averages, and making sure that we have strategies that target the groups that continue to lag, so that we can help encourage them to feel included as well as to feel that they have the opportunities to provide their voice. I'm not great at affirmations and connections yet, so I'll work on those. I did have some considerations. One of them was whether we wanted to include opportunities to elevate student voices beyond Bellevue School District into the larger Bellevue community or into the statewide community as an opportunity to show growth. Also, one of the things that I think is critical is to make sure that we do have, I heard the reference at the end to feedback loops, making sure that we do show not just the active listening, but also the action in response to that active listening so that we can demonstrate that through this process.
Okay, and so, yeah, now it's my turn. I don't know if you know, the board members got these little nifty sheets to organize our thoughts on. But anyway, so I'd say in terms of takeaways, to me, they struck me as very good sense of belonging results, at least for the elementary school. But I did think we should not take this for granted because, there are other times and places you can reflect back on your own childhood or that sort of thing where perhaps student voice was not valued or appreciated. So I think it's actually, in that context, pretty amazing the work that's being done here. And I do firmly believe that you cannot understand what's really going on without hearing from those most affected. So listening to students is just really key. To connect this up, to me, it seemed like pretty obvious we want to connect this to some things we heard at the microphone tonight in terms of a student talking about racial slurs and slights in the classroom and the teachers not really knowing, maybe how to handle it or maybe not hearing it. And so I think we need to connect this up to how can we intervene on this and how can we further our equity work and try to up that sense of belonging by having those things stop happening. And then I was concerned also in terms that we would make sure, I mean, you had it on the slide, so that's good, that we close that loop, that the students feel they can see directly. Maybe we pointed out to them, here's what you said and here's how we use that. Because, since I've been on the board, we keep listening to people, but we don't always connect up how that's changing anything. So, well, thank you for that.
Before I move us to the next report, just a comment on this. Tonight is a perfect example of the work we're trying to do around street data versus kind of satellite data, because when you look at the panorama survey data, we see some things that are positive for sure, but we also see some discrepancies between groups. But when you compare that kind of data to what the kids like Tendo were saying right at the microphone, it's in some ways the differences are a little bit jarring. And so I think this is just a good lesson for us as a system, because people will hear us talking about this, but we're really trying to do better to listen to the individual voices of the kids, because they're saying in some cases different things than we're seeing in the aggregation of data. So all your comments were really good. And I think for us, when we do our end of year report, I think it would be good for us to summarize the things that people across the schools are actually hearing from the kids. Well, what are we hearing and learning from the kids? What is the impact on the system? Like, how is what they're saying actually changing the system? And then how do we affirm kids by feeding back that? So
yeah, I do want to comment on that. And I think that is to my point earlier, is to make sure that we have that feedback loop and affirmation, especially including students who have found the strength to come in front of us and share their experiences and asking us to do better. I think it's really important that we follow up, especially with those who have made that effort, to let them know that we are working on it, where we are at, and how it's impacting, their voices impacting our schools.
Great. Thanks, Director Aris. And I think that's a perfect segue to the next report, which is culturally responsive curriculum. And I'll turn it over to Sharon. Go ahead.
Thank you. Is this on?
It's on, but talk loud. I can kind of hear you.
Doesn't seem like it's on, but okay. Thank you. I'm Sharon Couts, Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, and I'm excited to be here today to share some of the updates that we've made to the BSD curriculum in the last few years. I'm here with two amazing students. This is Sophia Taylor and Tendo Lumala, and they have been doing some absolutely incredible work on our fourth grade Washington State history course, and you are going to get to hear about what they've been doing later in the next few minutes. So next slide, please. This report is an update on how we are doing with our Equity Commitment A, which is to adopt curriculum and teaching and learning strategies that leverage, reflect, and affirm the identities of our BSD community. This work is critical to our students' sense of belonging and their academic success both. Next slide, please. As we've worked on updating texts, units, and lessons, these are some of the main objectives that we've centered on. It's been particularly important that we're utilizing primary sources of people of color and other underrepresented people to elevate their stories that are told by them, and also ensure that we're using instructional strategies that promote multiple perspectives and elevate student voice and agency, as you just heard in the last report. Next slide, please. We essentially have two measures that we're using to track how we are doing. And the first one is the panorama survey questions that you see here on the slide.
And the other is to continually be updating and increasing the number of updated curriculum units and lessons that we have. Next slide, please. So you can see the data here. It looks like it got cut off somehow, but this is the panorama survey data from 2019 and 2023. And you can see that we've made slight increases in students reporting favorably to these two questions. However, students that identify as Hispanic and also our students receiving MLL services had no increase or even a slight decline. And so this has been an area of focus for us this year, and I'm going to share more about that in a few moments. Next slide, please. We're continually updating our curriculum to be more culturally responsive, and I'm going to share just a few of these examples from our different content areas. I think in the report, a lot of that was around some of the work we've been doing in social studies, so I added some of the other content areas here. In math, we've adopted illustrative mathematics in grades K through Algebra 2, and this curriculum is really grounded in culturally responsive real-life examples that demand greater student voice and agency. We also updated all of our courses where we teach U.S. history in grades 5, 8, and 11 to include narratives of people of color that have been missing from these courses. And then our world language courses, we've updated units and lessons that are grounded in global competency, and they bring students' home cultures into the world language classroom. And then lastly, one of the examples that you see there with the computer, our students are coding, and it's a unit on seventh grade around deforestation, where students make connections to their personal experiences and others' perspectives in order to find the problem of deforestation, and most importantly, what the impacts are on the environment and the people and the animals in that environment. Next slide, please. So I want to do a huge shout out to the Bellevue Schools Foundation. Thank you, thank you. They have supported our ability to get all 343 classrooms in the school district, the elementary schools, with sets of culturally responsive books, and supported the secondary libraries as well. In addition, over the last few years, we've had a significant focus on updating the novels in our ELA courses at the secondary level that are written by people of color and other underrepresented identities to elevate their voices, and are providing students with more choice in what they read, so they have the opportunity to read novels about their own cultures as well as cultures of others. And as we adopt these new novels, we provide specific professional development to teachers to ensure they understand the nuances of what is in the novel and are prepared for whatever controversial or sensitive topics are in that particular novel. And we will be sharing more information about professional development that is offered to all of our educators in BSD related to culturally responsive instruction, anti-bias, discrimination, inclusion, when we do an upcoming board meeting this spring around the whole professional development plan. Next slide, please. And then here are a few examples of our current work. We had several student groups, and Bellevue High School sort of led the way on this, of classroom educators and students expressing a strong interest in offering a new advanced placement course, AP African American Studies. At the December Procedure 2020 Committee, the course was approved to be included in our course catalog, and schools will be surveying students for inclusion in master schedules for the fall of 2024. Another course that we're working on right now is our 4th grade Washington State history course, which you're going to hear about in just a minute from Tendo and Sophia. There was a notable concern raised from developers and educators about the perpetuation of stereotypes within this textbook. And a team met to review the concerns, and ultimately the textbook was removed and replaced with a more culturally responsive text that represents wider representation of races and ethnicities. And this is an experimental use this year, so you will see it come forth for seeking approval by you this spring. And then also this year, we've increased representation of Latin American narratives in the U.S. history courses, and are reviewing novels written by Hispanic authors and elevating multiple languages through our ELA coursework. And this will be a continued focus next year. And then lastly, a team of educators are currently developing lessons about the voices and history of people with disabilities to be included in our 4th and 11th grade social studies courses. So while we've had lots of improvements, there's still a lot of work to do. This is going to be forever work that we continually are updating and making our curriculum relevant and responding and affirming the student identities that we have. And now I have the distinct pleasure of passing the mic over to Tendo and Sophia.
Do you know who the first Black settler in Washington State was? Do you know who the first Black representative in Washington State legislature was? Who introduced the legislation which created Washington State University? Who developed the first civil rights legislation in Washington State history? The answer to all of these questions is William Owen Bush. Bush was born a free Black man in Clay County, Missouri in 1832, and traveled westward with his family in 1844 to escape discrimination. Arriving in Washington, he was turned away by the news of a Black Exclusion Act that prohibited the settlement of free Black people. So William and his family traveled north to Washington, where they settled in what is now Tumwater, Washington. William Owen Bush grew up to be a successful farmer and a representative in Washington State's first state legislature, introducing bills leading to the creation of Washington State University and the state's first civil rights legislation. Hearing this story is probably news to you, but it wouldn't be your fault because currently the story is not mentioned anywhere in the Bellevue School District curriculum.
We are the presidents of the SOAR Club at Bellevue High School, where our mission is to strive to fight racial inequalities at BHS and create inclusive environments where all students can thrive. Looking through the Bellevue School District social studies curriculum, we found places that we thought were missing core and important parts of Washington State history, and we decided to work towards embedding the story of William Owen Bush into the curriculum for 4th and 5th grade learning. Through a lesson plan that we've been working on, we hope to convey and illustrate the story of William Owen Bush, his life and impact on Washington State, while also presenting a bill activity for the students to learn about how the process of creating and passing a bill works to create change.
Next slide. Perfect. Our lesson is broken up into 6 scenes, detailing the early life of William Owen Bush and his migration to Washington Territory. That first image, which you'll see right there, is actually from the United States House of Representatives. When William Owen Bush and his family traveled to Washington State, or what was prior to Washington State, Washington Territory, they settled down in what was known as Thurston County, and at that time, it wasn't allowed for Black people to own land. So in fact, the Washington State territorial government petitioned the United States House of Representatives to grant him and his family the land that they're staying on. So that example is that first image up there. We'll walk through that and the early life of William Owen Bush. Then we'll talk about his farming roots and development into an agricultural leader in Washington State, which you can see in that old faded image up top. And then into his election to this Washington State inaugural state Congress and the creation of Washington State University through his land grant college legislation. And that far image on the right is actually from the first General Assembly of Washington State's House. Like 3 levels down, you can see his name and his like big old beard in that image. After going through these 6 scenes, we'll ask educators to give students an opportunity to reflect on their learning through personalized learning activities, such as a short journal reflection, drawing an event from a scene, and peer reflective sharing. At the end of this lesson, students will participate in a legislation creation activity using the framework of William Owen Bush's Act to Protect All Citizens and Their Civil Rights and Legal Rights, the state's first civil rights legislation. Students will craft their own legislation to promote equality within their classrooms and school communities.
We are grateful for the support of the Department of Teaching and Learning in helping guide us through this curriculum development process, and we hope the district can prioritize engaging in curriculum development to highlight the experiences and diversity of all members of our community, ensuring that all students are represented in curriculum.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that we guided you. That did not happen. They ran with it. So thank you for the
shout out, but that didn't actually happen. They seriously did it on their own, and these are two very incredible human beings. I want you to know right here. So thank you for that.
Okay, so time for a little bit of discussion, and we'll start with Jane.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation, as well as sharing with us. I'm forgetting your students' names, but
Sophia and Tendo.
Thank you very much for participating in the presentation. I love the way you integrated we're living up to our mission statement of helping our students become creators of the future world by sharing what they're working on and working on for the future of our students and letting them participate in that, and giving the agency to them and completing this process. I also appreciate how we are expanding our library throughout the district, and thanks to BSF, and really bringing books in, especially the voices that are least heard. I think that's so crucial as far as having our students feel connected to what they're studying, who they are, and their larger community, and also helping. This is such a crucial part of, I believe, helping them be connected to the larger global world that they're going to be participating as an adult. But more importantly, that they get to participate now as a student, and letting them understand that they have voice and power. So I have a lot of celebrations, though there is one ask I have, which is, I see that you're addressing, I think, I forgot which slide it was. I think, yeah, slide 8, disabilities, developing lessons about the voices in history, and you're addressing that in 4th and 11th grade, which is great, elementary and high school. But I wonder if there's a possible way that we can make sure that we're addressing that in middle school as well, because that's such a crucial time where our students are struggling with self-image in transitioning from, early childhood to, well, teenage. And so want to make sure that we are connecting in each of those spaces, that we're bringing that back, because they're as important that we address that component as well as all the different other cultural norms. Thank you.
I could see if I've got my little list going. So we did 5, so we roll back to 1.
That's me. Great program. I love seeing this sort of reporting and the growth and success that you're showing. I think one of the biggest challenges going forward is how to make sure we keep the process evergreen, and make sure that it's not a one and done effort. This is something that we're going to have to continue to maintain and continue to invest in to make sure that we keep growing and developing those perspectives and that diversity of viewpoints and opportunities. And that's what I see as one of the systematic challenges here. I mean, it's great that we acquired fantastic library resource. How do we maintain and grow that into the future, and not consider, oh, we did that, it's done now? Because I think that'll be the fundamental challenge in part of this. The other thing that I think is great is kind of getting into my own psyche. Sometimes we see this area can kind of be the Bellevue bubble that is insulated from a lot of things that go on in the rest of the world. And a lot of this part of the curriculum gives students a chance to explore some of the activities and events from other perspectives and from other regions in a way that we don't necessarily see happening locally. And I think that's a critical part of the Bellevue educational program's need to help transport those students into those situations and experiences so that they aren't just believing that the limited things that we see around us are the be all and end all of the world. Thank you.
Okay, so after 1 goes 2, and I'm 2. So I have a number of comments. I'm following my organizational chart here. So my key takeaway is you really are trying to be culturally responsive in math, history, world language, science. The work is happening. So that is the takeaway. My affirmation, I really appreciate the detailed information and examples. I'm very glad to get this information. I'm glad to see AP African Studies added to the curriculum. I know it's been controversial. I've been following that in other areas of the country. So I'm pleased to see that we're doing that. And I really am pleased with this information on William Owen Bush, because he seems like he was really foundational to our state in ways that I really had not known about him. So this is good. I wanted to make a connection to parent engagement, because our little chart here says make a connection to something else in the district. I don't know if you guys knew that PTSA has been doing a book club that's been having some of the parents read some of the very books that you're listing here. And I have personally read a number of them because of that effort. And I think maybe we should like expand that, because I think, you know, we need to engage the whole community in this. And then my wonderings are, one, I have like three big questions. One, are all of our teachers up to speed on being able to teach this material? Two, you know, and handle the conversations that come up. Two, are there any areas of curriculum or subjects that you see right away need further work that are like next on the agenda of what to do? And then the other one, the last question was, I'm wondering about like the book that you were talking about that wasn't good on Washington State history, and whether it was omission, like they didn't include these things, or it was there actual like factual misrepresentations in that book. But anyway, you've gotten rid of it, I guess, so it's okay, but I was wondering that. Okay, but thank you for this work. All right, so now, next puts us at Monica.
So first, I want to thank you both for being here and sharing the history lesson. I learned a lot from you today, so thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time and making the time to be here and share with us, so thank you. I just have so many questions, but we went over a lot of them on Monday, so thank you to the staff for taking time to answer the questions that I had on Monday, and I'll just echo some of what President Watson had asked around the training opportunities for teachers to make sure that they know how to use the materials, but then also thinking about ways that we can ensure that they will use them, right? So just wanting the district to kind of think about that. Also want to echo her sentiment around me feeling excited about the addition of the AP African American Studies to the 2024 master list. I think that's schedule. I think that's phenomenal, and I'm really grateful to the Bellevue Schools Foundation for adding the books to the classrooms as well. I think, let's see. Yeah, so that's pretty much all that I have. Thank you.
Well, I will say, I'm sorry, I said the wrong, I said African Studies, I meant African American Studies. Quick, because we're behind.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I do have one, two asks. In the final report, if you could bring back how you're going to sustain this progress and what the next steps are. And also, I really like the idea of having access of these books that our students are asked to read or participate in for the parents, maybe online, where parents could also read and learn and develop as well, maybe some guided questions or something or other. I think it's a great opportunity for the community to engage what our students are learning and help us grow to be more global citizens. So
awesome.
Okay,
Before
yeah.
we move to the next one, I just want to give Tendo, Sophia, one shout out, and two, the final word. If you have any comments you want to make just about the work that you've done.
Absolutely. Firstly, I want to say thank you for this opportunity to speak in front of you all. And one other thing, the reason why we're able to do this is because we reached out to the district about including this curriculum and about talking about these stories. And what we need in the future is that when students are not able to speak up about these things, that we're taking proactive steps to engage students and engage the community in this curriculum development work to ensure that all students feel represented in all of our curriculum. Thank you.
I'm aware that we're running a little behind here, but we have director discussion, so maybe we can tighten that up a little bit to fit time for this? Okay.
Okay, the final report is our multilingual learner education report. This one is not based on the annual plan, but this is one that is required by the state. And so we'll go ahead and turn it over to Chitra Bardwaj and to Ricardo Macias to give our report.
Namaste and good evening. I'm Chitra Bhardwaj, the Director of Multilingual Education, with my colleague.
Good evening, Board of Directors. My name is Ricardo Macias. I'm also a director with the MLO department.
So we are going to start by sharing the vision of our department, which nurtures and elevates district vision, and we'll share it in our language first. So I'll share it in Hindi, which is one of the many languages I speak, and I'll call it a language of my soul and my authentic self. प्रत्येक छात्र को अपनी योग्यता और स्वयं की पहचान पर गर्व हो और भविष्य के निर्माता के रूप में वे अपनी सभ्यता, संस्कृति और भाषा को अपनी पहचान दे सके.
As mentioned, I have the honor and privilege of serving the Bellevue School District community as a director for dual language programs. And I'm also the parent of two pretty energetic and yes, sometimes a little grumpy students in the district. So I would like just to take a moment to take the opportunity to bring in this space my native language by sharing our MLO department's vision in Spanish. Afirmar e inspirar a todos y cada uno de nuestros estudiantes para que aprendan y prosperen como creadores de su futuro, de su mundo futuro mientras celebran sus identidades y culturas raciales y lingüísticas.
So with this vision, I'll set the context for engagement for our presentation. And we must recognize that we are all language learners and educators of multilingual students, even if we don't speak their language. We can elevate the home languages of our students and communities and promote bilingualism. Historically, languages other than English have been viewed as obstacles, with the students encouraged to transition solely into English for full classroom participation, leading to subtractive bilingualism. In recognizing the need for paradigm shift, we are developing innovative approaches and programs rooted in multilingual pedagogies. Our goal is to support and expand students' ever-emerging language practices and fostering an inclusive and harmonious community where multilingual languages are valued, coexist, and thrive. This aligns seamlessly with Dr. Armaki's vision of a beloved community with innovation and education excellence. So on this slide, our agenda for today is a reflection of the vision of centering our ambitious commitment for bilingualism and multilingualism for all, and disrupt the narrow and deficit view of English language learners. The first agenda item is to share the Bellevue context of our program, our compelling and nurturing why, based on our demographics, student enrollment, who we are as a district. And then alignment of this work with our state strategic plan, which came out this year, rather last month, and the MLO service model for BSD to get to our vision, and along with expansion of the service models, and a quick summary of on our annual assessment. Next slide, please. So let's begin with the district's demographic changes from 2004 to nearly 2024. Over 2 decades, our BSD community has become linguistically and culturally rich. Now, nearly 1 in 5 students bring the wealth of speaking a language other than English. And with a recent increase of almost over 6 percentage points in multilingual learners in the past 5 years. Next slide, please. It is evident from our enrollment data that our multilingual student population is on the rise. This is our greatest asset. If we look at this year alone, we have seen consistent growth with approximately 3,600 students currently in the system and bring the vibrancy of speaking 98 different languages. This trend isn't just unique to Bellevue, it's a reflective of a broader state and national shift. I also want to point out that the dip we see on this graph in May is due to the fact we receive our state assessment, and this is a celebration of our students exiting MLL services by reaching proficiency on VIDA score, which is a rigorous assessment. nearly 18% of students qualify for MLL services. Let's go to the next slide, please. So on this slide, our state's strategic plan came out last month with clear 4 goals. We must strengthen instruction practices across the system through high quality professional support for our educators with a focus on multilingual students. To achieve this goal, we must promote an asset-based mindset, which involves expanding dual heritage and tribal language programs and fostering engagement with our families and communities. I'm excited as this aligns perfectly with Dr. Armaki's vision, and as a department, we are in alignment with our state's strategic plan. And next few slides will illustrate on our continuous work towards this. Let's go to the next slide. So in alignment with our state's strategic plan and new research grounded in language acquisition, we follow the supportive mainstream model. A key aspect of which is to strengthen instructional practices across the system for our educators to provide meaningful participation to rigorous grade level content. In this model, students access and receive English language development support within mainstream classrooms. And this approach is rooted in 3 core beliefs. English language proficiency is not a prerequisite for meaningful participation in disciplinary learning. Rather, language development is an outcome of this meaningful, rigorous learning. We no longer segregate multilingual learners in a separate pull-out programs. Instead, we embrace the idea that language can and can only be learned through content and meaningful participation with grade level content. Collaboration is key, is essential, and all teachers are content and language teachers. And we must work together to serve all learners and must co-plan with content and language integration. In alignment with this model, we have developed a robust professional development roadmap, and it provides high quality training for educators across all roles, from building administrators to teachers to developers and coaches. So I'll delve into the details of this roadmap on the next slide. Let's go to the next slide, please. So the goal of strengthening instructional practices is to first challenge the deficit mindset and lead with instruction. We see equity as a pedagogical priority, which is echoed and authored by the street data author like equity is first and foremost pedagogical. And it is for this reason we developed this language and literacy framework as a pedagogical framework in collaboration with our stakeholders across the system. This year, we are introducing this framework to provide high quality instruction with professional development to all educators across all content areas and we are including this as a guide for our language and literacy adoption work by centering on multilingualism, our multilingual students, and biliteracy for our students in dual language program. Our professional development roadmap focuses on providing how to plan with English language development in content areas using guided language acquisition strategies, language routines to develop content and language simultaneously, and universal design for learning to provide access. The key takeaway here is that our language and literacy framework is all about integration across all content areas, placing them at the forefront of our instructional approach. Our goal is to create an environment where language and literacy are not isolated skills, but are integrated into the fabric of our education system and the responsibility of all stakeholders. Let's go to the next slide, please. So additionally, at the secondary level, we are proactively building a welcoming system for our newcomer students, where they are the voice of decision maker. Our goal is to get to know our students holistically. Instead of expecting students to adapt to our system, we must improve our system to meet their unique strengths and needs. And this year, we have introduced the newcomer navigator role at Interlake and Sammamish High School and newcomer project lead at the central office to support this across the buildings. We are also piloting a culturally and instructionally relevant curriculum for our middle and high school newcomer students and also providing the collaborative co-planning coaching to all our MLL facilitator as shown on the previous slide. Let's go to the next slide, please.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about dual language. And dual language education is an OSPI approved program as well as the state's preferred MLL service model. A dual language program is an additive service model because the goal of dual language is for students not only to acquire English, but also to become bilingual and biliterate in English as well as the target language. OSPI and the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Chris Rengel, are strong advocates for dual language education. They have created a vision and have expressed their desire for dual language to become accessible to all students in Washington state by 2040. Currently in the Bellevue School District, we have two dual language programs, one for Mandarin and the other one for the Spanish language. The Spanish dual language program is housed in 3 different elementary schools, which are Stevenson, Lake Hills, and Sherwood Forest. At the secondary level, our program is at Highland Middle School and Sammamish High School. Our Mandarin dual language program, on the other hand, is housed at Jingmei Elementary. Students go from Jingmei to Telecom and then Newport High School. Our programs in Bellevue have been, dual language programs in Bellevue have started over 12 years ago, and we're really excited because this school year, our first Mandarin dual language program cohort over at Newport are going to be graduating. So we're really excited about that. Next year, we'll be celebrating the graduation of our first Spanish dual language students. So we're really excited about that. Can we go to the next slide, please? So we talked a little bit about mainstream model, how students are receiving services in the mainstream model in the classroom. And we just talked a little bit about dual language programs. As mentioned throughout the presentation of district, we have those current ways of serving the needs of our ML students. Multilingual learners served through both the supported mainstream model as well as dual language program receive instruction in English and are supported with their English language development. In both approaches, newcomers are welcome and served. One thing that I would like to point out here is that using students' home language for bridging and making connections between the multiple languages they speak and English is something that is not limited to dual language, but it happens in our supported mainstream model as well. This is our way to elevate our students' assets and accelerate their learning. Can we go to the next slide, please? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about WIDA. And WIDA, rather than just being an assessment system, WIDA is a pedagogical and instructional framework for language development that is grounded on the idea of language and content integration. So language development doesn't happen in isolation, but it happens embedded in a content. WIDA provides language development standards that are aligned to the Common Core standard, as well as a system for tracking students' growth in the area of English language development. During the 2022-2023 school year, the total number of students assessed using the annual WIDA assessment was 2,987. Based on the data that we collected from this assessment administration, we identified that overall the greatest growth happened in the areas of reading and writing, and speaking and oral language development are representing our biggest area of growth or opportunity. Can we go to the next slide, please?
So something for us to celebrate is like we are the first district in Washington state to develop and expand community-based bilingual programs. So in order for me to speak about the expansion of bilingual programs, let me share a quote from the voice of our family. As this parent voice itself elevates the purpose of these offerings than any research can explain. And I'll read. My child's Arabic proficiency is currently low. A few months ago, my husband switched to speaking English as we were concerned his English proficiency was insufficient to start public schools. Honestly, if accepted in the program, my husband will likely return to speaking Arabic with the kids as we would no longer be concerned about the transition to a monolingual kindergarten. So these words and these programs go far beyond just language learning. They are about affirming our students' identities and creating rich cultural experiences. It also means that families also sitting in the driver's seat. As we see this picture of a family advisory working with as a group, so they are sitting in the driver's seat, co-designing educational spaces. And this is where they are making the decision and they there is a Dapka dance and calligraphic robotic clubs, all those enrichment activities, these families are planning as a part of the extracurricular activities. Let's go to the next slide, please. So with this, I'm really proud to introduce and really share is that next year, we are thrilled to introduce Korean and Hindi languages to our community for our incoming kindergarten students and for our students in middle school from 6th to 8th grade. These language offerings have been carefully developed over the last 2 years, following the co-design principles of engaging families, students, and community members. And together we have nurtured the vision of BSD, bilingual education for all, in working with our students as a leaders, as a heritage language ambassadors in this program. And in order for us to develop this vision, we use critical criteria to guide our language selection, as we aim to create multilingual environments that provide students with opportunities to preserve their native languages and or acquire additional language skills. Our focus is to promote linguistic fluency, cultural competency, and ensure that the students are equipped with the skills and understanding necessary to be conscious global citizens. And this is the end of our presentation for multilingual learner. Sorry, I'm sorry. I think we have one more.
We just have one more thing that we wanted to talk to you about, and this is about language access. So we have working really hard on the development and implementation of our language access plan in the district. And in different ways, we have been pioneering this work at the state level. We will have, now we have a language access coordinator who's leading all this work, but later in the year, we'll be providing you with a full presentation about this work. However, we just wanted to take this opportunity to highlight what is happening in our district when it comes to language access. Can we go to the next slide, please? So with that, we came to the end of our presentation. We're really excited to have this opportunity, to share about all the work that is happening, the amazing work that is happening in the department, and would like to thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's time for discussion, and I realize I lost track on my chart. Is it Monica? No, it's Phil. Okay.
Yeah, so thank you very much for the presentation. As a newer person on the board, this is an area where I will have even less knowledge and experience. So a lot of what I learned was trying to go through your report and listening to your presentation, and I appreciate that, and I learned a lot from both. I think one of the things that I think you would agree is true, but I've definitely observed it, is that when you create opportunities for students to work in a situation where they have language and culture, it helps create community and really strong community bonds among those students. And I think that's a really great asset and an extraordinary feature of some of the dual language programs and the programs that you're presenting on. I found some of the reporting kind of difficult to understand and to track. And in particular, I was struggling to tell how we're doing. I felt like some of the cohorts, the groups that were being tracked seemed to change, and it became very difficult to tell whether or not we're doing a good job or not. It felt a little bit like we were reporting the data we had because it's the data we have, but not necessarily the most meaningful data for telling how well the district is doing with these students and with these programs. And so that is the overall message that I have, is that I'd like to be able to assess that. I'd like to be able to tell how we are doing for these students. And in particular, because students are going in and out of this program. And the greatest growth looked like it was in the high school classes. So clearly students are coming to the district in part because we have this program. So I think that means we're doing well, but I can't tell. And that was the biggest struggle that I had with going through this report.
Thank you. Let's see. 1, 2, I guess is, no, me? Oh, all right. I'm going to try to be quick because we're rolling behind schedule here. But I just want to say, I love this not a deficit view. That's, takeaways. And dual language as additive, and just celebrating language abilities as just something, you come and you bring to the table, and it's going to be great for the rest of your life, really. You talked briefly about critical criteria, using that to pick which languages come next in the sequence. But what I'd like to see is the critical criteria review of who we're able to serve, because it's a concern, like, is somebody, okay, if you have special needs, can you thrive as an MLL student? Can you get the services that you need? What if you are the English-speaking person who's trying to learn that language, and then it's discovered that you have some kind of you need some kind of services? How are we going to handle that? So that's my question in terms of going through the critical criteria and seeing which groups might be left out or not fully able to access the program. Okay, Monica?
So thank you so much for the presentation. It's really great to hear about the addition of the Hindi and Korean programs next year. It's very exciting. And also about the newcomer navigator position at Interlake and Sammamish. As we're, thinking about our students' sense of belonging, their identity, and affirming our students, I'm just wondering if there are any considerations being made of adding that position at the elementary level as well. So that I'll leave it there since we are running out of time. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just jump in. Thank you very much for the presentation. I really like that final slide with the sign language added to it. I think that's really important that we continue to recognize that multilingualism includes ASL in our community. That said, I do want to piggyback on Director Watson's comment about how are we going to make sure that we're servicing our students in the dual language programs who have additional needs, to make sure that they're thriving in that space, and that we're thoughtful and intentional that we are not weeding them out of the program, but we are supporting them and utilizing and supporting. And also, my understanding, since this is a program, multilingual programs or dual language programs is coming out of MLL, that all of our staff who will be working in these programs will be trained in not just UDL, but also GLAD or SIOP or like programs, so that they are having all the tool sets to make sure that we are addressing all the different types of learners, especially since we're trying to get them to learn multilingual languages. And I truly appreciate the asset-based approach. I think and I will echo I won't go in deep on this, but the sense of belonging that we will create. And I'm curious to know how this will affect our panorama results, given that the data for grade middle school and high school, their scores or percentage have dropped. And so I'm wondering if this will, I'd love to see if we can somehow track our students in these programs in that. Thank you.
All right. Well, it turns out we need to approve this report, actually, because it goes to the state. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the report. And can I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The report is approved. So that's a good thing. All right. Now,
go ahead.
We have just a little bit of time left for director discussion. No?
Legislative.
Oh my goodness, we are behind. Okay. Yes.
Legislative priorities.
Yes, George, can you advance the slides? Thank you very much. The draft legislative priorities were provided you before the winter break, I believe the December 14th meeting. You saw them again last Friday. You had an opportunity to ask some questions on Monday, and it has been the tradition of this board to approve the legislative priorities on an annual basis. So just very quickly for the public, I'll walk you through what our priorities are. Next slide, please. Our two critical issues here priorities are applying the regionalization factor to the local enrichment levy. We've talked at length about that. I don't think we need to belabor that point, but that would be a fabulous, if the legislature was to approve that, it would certainly help us with our budget challenges. The second critical issue is more of a long-term priority, and that is around special education. I think you all know, and the public knows, that the gap between what the state funds and what we provide is significant, close to $30 million. So that's a longer term fix. This is not a year of developing a biennial budget. So we're asking the legislators to consider significant long-term changes to the way special education is funded. And specifically what we're hoping that they do is provide some funding for level 2 intervention within a multi-tiered system of support model. So those are our two highest priority issues. The next three, next slide, George, please, are important issues to us as a community, and they center on student well-being and mental health. You heard the importance of that tonight from our student speaker. The second one is affordable housing. You heard Dr. Aramaki talk about that with respect to our bus drivers, as well as workforce housing. And then finally, early learning has been a challenge for us because it's not state funded. And I guess another shout out to BSF, who has provided some funding for some of our families who are not able to afford early learning support. So those are the issues that are not as critical, but are important to us. And then the last slide are 4 topics that are sort of ongoing issues that we've supported over time. And for some districts, for example, the third one, school construction formula modifications, that's much more important to other districts because we've been so fortunate in this community with the support. We're not really in the school construction business, but support and changes to the formula modifications would certainly help other districts. Increasing school material supplies and operating costs would be beneficial to all districts. And then addressing classified staff salary gaps would be important to do within the prototypical funding model. And then changes to the transportation formula have been on our agenda for quite some time. So you've seen the full document, you have access to it. And again, it's been your tradition over the past number of years to approve as a board our legislative priorities for 2024. So what I would ask for your consideration to do that tonight.
Okay, I think we should start with a motion to approve and then we can have the discussion.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, I'll second it myself. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. In terms of discussion, does anybody? Okay. Jane, we'll just. Oh, no. Yeah. You just want to vote on it? You don't want to discuss it?
Did you guys just vote?
Yeah. Oh my God. All right. Never mind. I'm sorry. Okay.
But director discussion.
Director discussion. We can do discussing. Oh dear. Because I had some thought about this, that it was interesting that all of our priorities with the legislature are monetary, like everything that we have listed. You can imagine a world in which we might have other things to say to the legislature, but I think right now, because we're in this budget crisis, it's what we're doing. Yeah. Okay, so now, actual director discussion? We are trying to get to that, yeah. Does anybody have anything?
I do.
You do, all right. We'll start, I've lost track of the numbers, so we'll just do one. Yeah, you went first last time, but you can go again.
So I had the opportunity to have a site visit today at Samaras High School with the leaders of the CT, the Continuing Technical Education?
Yeah.
Career and Technical Education Program, CTE program. Really appreciated the opportunity to see Sammamish High School and to learn more about the CTE program. I thought it was phenomenal. It was great to see a gleaming campus, a lot of happy faces in the classrooms. It also kind of highlighted a few things for me that I think are worth commenting on. First of all, new career programs like the aviation program, which we were able to visit, would likely benefit from additional guidance and participation from community and our community leaders. We're fortunate to have pilots, builders of airplanes, managers of finance for airplanes in this community. And I think that there are real opportunities there to leverage them both as advisors to the program as well as potentially participants, classroom participants, to help lead sessions and inspire some of those students. That program's obviously new, still working to find a bit of its audience. I also think it's evident that not all programs, not all these CTE programs can be at all schools. They require considerable investment in materials as well as specialized teachers. And we walked through a glass, a program where they were making blown glass as well as glass fusing. And there were 2 furnaces and 3 glory holes. And it was not the kind of thing that can be at every school. And so that also makes me wonder if there aren't creative ways that we can make those programs and those investments accessible to students who are at other schools who might have interest in those but can't participate during the school day, either through club participation after the academic day, possibly making some of these available on weekends or through summer school opportunities. Just that those seem like assets that we've made considerable investments in, and that there would be likely additional interest beyond those campuses to be able to participate in. Thank you.
So I'm 2, so I just thought I'd let you know what I've been up to, which just that the strategic plan work continues, and that we have to do a number of empathy interviews for which they're going to be due soon at the end of January. And I'll just try to keep you up to date on what's going on in strategic planning, because just want you to not feel like you don't know what's going on. And then I did ask the PTSA, I did let them know, because we had already, the effective date had already occurred when I saw PTSA about the resignation of the board members. So I let them know about that, and for them to sort of, everyone needs to start looking. So we obviously will get a timeline and more information later. So this is not like the official announcement of the application, but just that people start thinking about it and start thinking who would be good that lives over in that area. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that I like that idea about doing more with parents reading the different books in the curriculum. But I wonder if there's a limitation too, because I've been purchasing those books and it's maybe not financially easy for some parents. Although I was going to say, my grandmother read every book I brought home from school. And so we could have that discussion, but not everybody has got that time. So I'll just leave it there. And then we're at 4.
Yeah, so I attended Sammamish High School with Director Block today, and just wanted to give a shout out to the Assistant Principal, Lenita Hill, and the Director of the CT Programming, Jess Moyer, for being gracious guides and taking extra time to answer our questions at the end. They were just phenomenal. And also to the students who took time to chat with us, and the educators who allowed us into their building spaces and interrupt their day. So wanted to just shout them out. And then I also had an opportunity, as our superintendent Aramaki mentioned, to speak at International on their MLK Day. And what a rewarding experience that was. And Chief of Staff John Harrison was there, as well as Monica Namilla and a couple of other district staff. And it was just so great just to have an opportunity to connect with the students and the staff there. And everybody was just so gracious. And it was just a great chance for me to connect with kids at a school that I hadn't typically been at. So just wanted to share that with everybody and thank Mr. White, the principal over there, for allowing me to be in his space. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Jane.
Okay. Well, I have a couple of thoughts and ideas I'd like to throw out and see what the board thinks. One of the thoughts that came to my mind as we're reflecting on our annual goal this year and student agency and our mission statement is that how can we as a board help that process? And discussing with some other board directors in other districts, it came to my mind that we don't really as a board celebrate our learning community on the achievements. And I wonder if we could take a couple minutes during our board meetings to acknowledge students, staff, community, parents, maybe one in each area, if there is recognition that is brought to us, and celebrate how they are contributing in the various different spaces. And because I think that acknowledgement, affirming is important, and not just the students, but our staff and our parents who spend so much time to make our district what it is. And so if you think it's a great idea, I would love to know, and if we could maybe come up with a process together. Love to work with someone else who be, what that should look like or how it should go out. Yes, jump in.
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal idea. We have so many parents and staff that contribute so much time, extra time to our community, and I think that's a great idea. I'd love to work with you on that.
Okay, great. Yeah, and so maybe we could try to get something together and do that. The other is, and I don't think this is a discussion we could work on right now, but I think, as I've mentioned before, how it's important for us to work with the city to make sure that we're all on the same page, and also that our work is reflection, and so we're growing in a positive way and not creating unintentional harm, which will have a greater impact, like housing issues. I was thinking that this is something maybe we should add to as part of a liaison position as a board directors, and if it is, maybe we could have a further discussion as a business item in the future. Any thoughts on that?
I think it's a reasonable idea. It's reminding me that we did have some liaison positions that were discussed, I think, back in December, that we haven't yet revisited, that we maybe need to make sure get on one of the future
On the
board
next
calendars.
agenda, yeah.
One more item, and that is, I think it's, and I think we had discussed this regarding having a retreat. I think it's important that we get that on the books and also go through what do we want as norms as part of a board to make sure that we're healthy and functional and doing the best work we could possibly for our students and our learning community. And one of the things I'd like to throw out is that maybe in that part of the retreat, I'd love to have us discuss about norms about social media and its impacts on our community, especially during our meetings, and maybe possibly even consider creating a policy on that.
Just really quickly, I do wonder if we should wait for the new board director to come on board before we talk about the norms, so that we're all
bought in on it.
And yeah, right. And as well as with the retreat, because we don't know each other very well. So just wondering if we should consider that.
Well, we'll get the timeline hammered out soon, and then we'll be able to tell from there how long we can wait. Okay, I think, are we done? Yeah, I think we can go on break now for about 15 minutes, and we're running 10 minutes behind schedule, which isn't the worst case scenario, but and so we'll come back. Looking at the clock. Let's just do 6:55. Let's not round it up.
6:55.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a
Just as a reminder, you're resuming an executive session for the purposes of meeting with me to discuss things consistent with the agenda item. So I just want to make sure we have to announce that before the board goes there. So it's presently planned for an hour.
But
You just need to announce
the
it. before-
executive session, oh, yeah, okay. When we come back from the 15 minutes, we will be in executive session, which is on the printed agenda. Yeah.